Hello YouTube, welcome to part 2 of my video on installing a Nexus 7 into my BMW e46 with Harman Kardon factory speakers and amp. Okay, on the screen, hopefully you saw part 1 of this video. If you did, then this diagram on the screen will be very familiar to you. Now in part 1 of my video, I also spoke about some of the objectives I had. In addition to installing the Nexus as a head unit, also wanted to have full hands-free texting and calling. Now, I realized something as I was working on this project and testing various methods. I was looking at the problem as if it's one piece. You know, hands-free, texting and calling and head unit, but I realized that's two separate things. The tablet is a tablet and my phone is a phone, so I shouldn't be letting the tablet play the role of the phone, and I shouldn't be trying to make a phone be a tablet. So with that said, I decided to tackle the issue as the two separate problems that they were. So in the end, what I went for was I set up the phone to do hands-free texting and calling, and I set up the tablet to be a head unit, as well as using an app called Tablet Talk. I'm able to see on the tablet who is calling me or who I'm calling, as well as who is texting me and vice versa. So that's the link between them. So again, I was able to, do what I needed with the phone as well as do what I needed with the tablet. Now, when I started this adventure, this was the diagram I was operating from, and this was a very specific to my car, and I had a more generic diagram if you saw part 1, which this is the generic one. So this was the overview of what I thought would be the final implementation, but actually what happened was somewhat modified. In order to get everything I needed done, I decided to add a Bluetooth stereo, a very inexpensive Bluetooth stereo and an inexpensive hands-free kit. I decided to add those in. They each cost around 20 bucks each, so it's not very expensive. Now the stereo is connected to the DAC, and then the stereo is then wired into the harness, which is then connected to the car. And why I added the stereo was it made life easier as far as getting the hands-free to work and my other objective. So the idea behind the stereo was something I saw implemented in a few different installs that I googled online. I saw a lot of Volkswagen installation where they were putting in a head unit, but the head unit would be invisible, and then you run your stereo through the head unit, through the auxiliary line in. And I also saw these other guys that did an iPad mini installation using the same technique. Basically, they had a stereo system that is hidden behind the actual tablet, and the stereo can be controlled from an app. In their setup, they got like a Sony or JVC. There's a few different manufacturers now that have stereos on the market that allow you to control AM, FM, and various other functionality from an app, which is perfect for setting up a tablet, and having the tablet do everything you need it to do. So I kind of took this idea from them, and in my implementation, that's exactly what I did. I had an expensive stereo that just stay hidden in the background. You won't ever see it, and it got me the result that I wanted, as far as able to run the hands-free kit into the stereo through the aux line. So in my case, the DAC as well as my hands-free kit are both running into the auxiliary line through the stereo, and made life easier. So for this video, I wanted to first go over the initial diagram, then go over what actually was implemented, and that's what you see here in front of you. And again, this is specific for the Beamer. The general implementation would look a little more like this. For non-BMW specific, this would be to any vehicle model. And I will also show what this actually looks like as far as equipment is concerned. So this is the equipment that's actually installed in my vehicle. So we have a Nexus 7. You have an OTG cable connected to that. Then you have a DC to USB power adapter. One end goes into the wire harness, you know, to get your 12 volt power from the battery. And then the other end is a USB adapter, which you just plug into the micro USB in the OTG cable in order to power your Nexus and keep it charged. Now, many people, when they're doing this setup, they use a powered hub. I didn't use a power hub, but I managed to find one hub that seemed to work perfectly without being a powered hub. It's a GE Slim hub, and it's an old hub. It only cost maybe $5 on Amazon, and it works perfectly. It actually has a place for a power adapter if you decide to power it, but in my case I didn't need it. Everything was able to connect to it. My Joycon for the steering wheel controls, the USB DAC, as well as I'm running another data cable out from the USB hub to my car, which I'll show you an image of in a second. And as stated, from the DAC I use a 3.5mm audio cable running to the stereo, which is then connected to the harness, and I was able to accomplish all my goals. Now, as far as the hands-free piece go, there's plenty of apps on the Play Store that allow you to have your incoming text message read to you, and just using Google Plus or Google Now, you're able to just, you know, send outbound text as well as outbound hands-free calling without any issue. So that was easy enough to solve. As far as the calling go, as I said, all the hands-free stuff is done from the phone, and I use the app known as Tablet Talk in order to allow me to see on the tablet what the phone is doing as far as who is calling in, who I'm calling, who is texting me, who I'm texting, and etc. So this is the equipment list again as far as what's set up, and let me show you a quick picture of what's actually in the car. Now, this is a picture of my car. Right here you can see the USB data port that I put in. This allows me to connect a flash drive and load files on or off the tablet whenever I need to. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a charging port, because since I'm not using a powered hub, I doubt the hub will push enough power out of a, plain 2.0 USB port in order to charge too many devices. So it's not really a charging port. I have other adapters in the car for charging, so that's not really an issue. So my trim is still somewhat loose, because this picture was taken early in the process where I hadn't completely closed it up, because I knew I had to go back in, so that's why it looks so loose. But this is, an overview of the picture. I will take you into the car in a minute and we'll see what it sounds like. Okay? Thank you. And in a few seconds, I'll be back in the car to continue this video. Okay, YouTube. Here I am in the car for the second part of this video. Here you're seeing the finished product after I've put everything back together. Right here I'm using this software called Tablet Talk that allow me to see what's going on with my phone as far as text, incoming text, and who is calling me without having to look at the phone. So as stated earlier, one of my main objective was hands-free, in addition to having my music and everything. But let's talk about this install real quickly. Now, there's quite a few videos on YouTube showing how to take apart the e46 dash in order to get this guy in. If you have a Beamer e46 series and you have the nav system, then it won't be as much of a problem, because the climate control will be already here. However, I didn't have it right here. I used to have just a general holder. I guess they call it sunglass holder. So my climate control shared the second half of this area with the previous stereo. So I took the stereo out, took the climate control, move it down here. Again, there's a few videos on YouTube that show how to do this. Many of the very famous sound guys have done this very often, so you won't have a problem figuring out how to do it. Again, I've tackled this video more as a general rather than specific to the Beamer, and of course for each and every person, your mounting brackets, your wiring harness is always going to be unique to your vehicle. But as far as the e46, taking the stereo out is only a matter of taking off those two trims and taking out 2 screws. However, removing this cage that held the climate control and the stereo requires taking out a couple more screws, as well as removing this guy. And for me, removing this guy was not easy. It's not exactly intuitive as to where the screws are and how to take it out. That's why, if you're going to do it, I suggest you definitely check out one of those other videos, because they go over it. So as for that, let's get back to my demonstration. First priority for me was hands-free. So let's see. Priority 1, sending text hands-free. And well, if I touch a button, that would be cheating. So let's try it. Okay, Google, text Alexander.
What's the message?
This is a test.
Got it. Do you want to send it or change it?
Send it.
Okay. Message sent.
You have a new message from Alexander Foster. This is a test.
Okay, so that was testing and receiving, and as you see with Tablet Talk, the text pops up here. It gives you a chance to respond to the text from here, or initiate a phone call from here without touching your phone. But Again, if you have to touch the screen, you may as well touch your phone. There's not much difference. Hands-free was my objective. So let's see if I could call a friend of mine hands-free also. Okay, Google, call Donald.
Calling Donald Golding, mobile. Reached the voicemail box of 917.
Alright, so that's my friend in NY. I just called him, got his voicemail. So, as you see, hands-free is working just fine. So that was a success as far as my objectives were concerned. However, I wanted to, in addition to using Google Now on the phone, I also wanted to be able to use Google Now on the tablet. Now, since I'm using the same Bluetooth headset paired to the tablet and the phone, sometimes when I use it, the phone will, intercept the command instead of the tablet. So for purposes of this demonstration, that's just one hurdle you will have to figure out around if you want to use a similar setup as I am. But I'm sure that won't be an issue for most people. But for right now, I could just turn off my phone Bluetooth for a second so that it won't override. So let's try from here. Okay, Google. Darn it. Take me to Starbucks. The first one.
Navigating to Starbucks.
It's usually not this slow. I'm guessing since I just turned on the Wi-Fi, it's probably doing some updates in the background. But as you can see, that works.
Head southeast on Ashwood Parkway.
Okay, I got it. Demo done. Finish. Kaput. Alright, so that was also part of my objective, and that does work with its little quirks from time to time. But that's mainly, again, the main issue is because I'm sharing this Bluetooth connection between the phone and the tablet. Now, in theory, I could not use the phone and then, use a voice over IP solution. And in that case, I could have a voice dialer on the tablet that would allow you to have a real number with a normal area code, and you can initiate calls as well as get calls back, in which case you would not have a phone as part of the picture, and this would work perfectly all the time. But as of right now, my Bluetooth is shared between the phone and the tablet, and when I do certain things, especially use Google Now, a lot of times the phone is intercepting the commands, and I turned the phone's Bluetooth off. That's how I was able to get the commands to go to the tablet instead. So that's neither here or there, but at least you could see that work. Now, as far as my interface go, I'm pretty anal, so I wanted just a very clean, sleek interface. Just have a weather and a clock right in the middle. Then I have these 4 most used apps. Well, I don't use the equalizer much. Once you set it, you can forget it. And as far as ES File Explorer, I don't have to use it that often, but it's there because, you know, it's better than having 3 icons or 2 icons. It would just look weird. Anyway, I wanted to have a clean, sleek main screen. Then I have an extended screen that have, you know, all these various apps that allow me to keep up on my show. Hopefully I wouldn't be using this while driving. If I'm parked waiting for someone, or I'm parked outside waiting for, I don't know, store to open or something, I could, you know, catch up on a Scandal or go to Freeform and catch up on Pretty Little Lies. Not that I watch that or anything, but like I said, if I have to catch up on the Pretty Little Liars, then, you know, I could sit back and catch that video while I'm parked, twiddling my thumb. Now, Google Music worked beautifully, and it's like really cool to see the nice integration between Google Music and Google Maps when you're using it. You know, when the map's going to talk, the music slowly fades out, and then the maps speak to you, give you direction, and the music fade back in. It's very nice. Even when I'm, you know, using like my main stereo system that has my music, offline music, it will also fade in and out. Okay, YouTube, I'm back in my office, and this is just to wrap up the video, part 2. Now, I would like to go over a few points, lessons learned from doing this install, points that I hope will help you with your own install if you're gonna attempt to do, you know, a similar project. One of the biggest issue was using Google Now. Again, that issue was basically caused because the phone and the tablet were sharing a Bluetooth headset and or a Bluetooth set basically, and the phone would end up intercepting the commands. That's something, you know, you could deal with, or you'll find ways around. I guess one way to work around it is, in addition, have the Bluetooth set, only have your phone connected to the Bluetooth, and on the tablet, you can run a USB microphone out of your USB hub that's part of this entire setup, and then that microphone will just use for the tablet. So that's one possible workaround. The second workaround would be if you can get the Bluetooth on the radio to work. Now, I only use the stereo for its aux out, but I guess depending on which stereo you get, you could also use the stereo as Bluetooth, and this way the Bluetooth set could be just for the tablet, phone could be hooked to the stereo, or vice versa. I'm sure you guys will come up with many ways to work around that issue. Again, hopefully you've watched Bavarian and Beyond's video, DIY, on how to put the Nexus 7 into a BMW. But again, even though it's a BMW, it's the general concept. The wiring is always going to be the same. The only exception being the mounting brackets and the wiring harness will be specific to your car. But everything else will remain the same. Same basic overview. I think I also have the actual layout of all the pieces here somewhere. yeah, so this is a general guide to, you know, the equipment again. This is actually all the equipment that I used in my vehicle setup. I actually have two of these DC to USB power adapters in my car. One I use for the USB port as a charging port, and the other I use to power the Nexus. So that's also something you can do. Put more than one power adapter in, especially if you're going to put in like charging ports. Something I didn't do, I actually put my USB port, charging port right there in the dash itself, where it could be seen. I guess a little bit neater way to do it would be to run the ports down into the ashtray area and then have your USB ports coming out your ashtray. I didn't have the patience to do it, but I know that would have probably been a little bit more sleek and, you know, more organized, and you wouldn't see the USB port just, you know, out in the open. But for me, I didn't mind having it there, so to each their own, of course. And just to do a wrap up, I'm sure there's a lot of videos out here showing you the different ROMs and all the features. One feature I didn't really implement was the ability to use a Bluetooth adapter with the car connected to my ODB2 in order to allow me, you know, to see real-time stats for the car, like mileage, how much I'm using in terms of fuel efficiency and various other stats on the car. But that's one good add-on if you're going to do this project. Again, it wasn't part of my main concern. I'm mostly just prepping for my road trip that's coming up soon, and I want to make sure I have my music and I had my GPS, because I can't afford to get lost in some nowhere far from civilization and have no clue what's going on. Anyway, so that was it. The Joycon worked perfectly for my vehicle's control. I was able to use volume up, volume down, track up, track down, and mute. So that's pretty much all the features I could possibly want from the steering wheel. Now there's plenty more controls that can be programmed. Depending on your implementation, you might want to do that. Again, the ESD is the model that was necessary for my car. I think the EXC also could have worked. There's plenty models of Joycon, and for certain models of car you wouldn't even need Joycon. You might need a different brand, but whatever is necessary for your steering wheel control, you would replace it right here. Again, I had a lot of help when I was doing this project from Bavarian and Beyond. The good guy, he was very patient, answered all my questions pretty fast actually. So I won't have a problem answering any of your questions. If any of you send me any comments or questions that I could help you with, feel free. I will definitely get back to you in a timely manner. And let me just put my email right here. YouTube at bgprocks.com, which is short for BGP Rocks Gaming. So feel free to send me an email. I will answer them as soon as I can, and in a timely manner, I hope. So that's it, signing off, and I guess I'll see you all around later.